I was zipping up my overnight bag when my phone lit up. My hands were still folding the last sweater. The cashmere one my brother Michael had given me for Christmas 3 years ago, back when things were still good between us. I glanced at the screen. It was Melissa Park, my father's estate attorney. The message was brief, clinical, and absolutely chilling. Do not get on that plane to Aspen. Michael has initiated emergency conservatorship proceedings. You are walking into an ambush. Call immediately. Before the words could fully register, another text popped up. This one from Michael. His tone was warm, concerned, almost loving. Hey sis, did you check in for your flight yet? Everyone's here waiting. We really need this weekend together. Can't wait to see you. The contrast between the lawyer's stark warning and my brother's gentle words felt like a punch to the chest. My breath caught. I slowly released the zipper, set down the sweater, and walked to the edge of my bed. I sat. I stared at both messages. And then I understood. The realization didn't crash over me. It seeped in slowly, like poison through fabric. I wasn't packing for a healing family weekend. I was packing for a kidnapping. Before I tell you the sick scheme my brother had waiting for me at that mountain cabin, drop a comment below. Have you ever had that moment where you realized someone you loved was actively destroying you? Let me know. You're not alone in this. Melissa didn't waste a single second on pleasantries when I called. Her voice had that particular edge lawyers get when they're holding back fury for your sake. Listen very carefully, she said. Michael isn't planning to contest the trust through the courts. Court takes time. You turn 30 in 8 weeks. That's when the $4.2 million inheritance from your father transfers to your sole control. He can't afford to wait for a trial. She paused. The silence felt like falling. He's hired a private psychiatric transport team. They're at the Aspen property right now. His plan is to stage an intervention tomorrow morning during what he's calling a family breakfast. He's going to claim you're having a severe mental health crisis, that you're a danger to yourself. He has a physician on site, a Dr. Raymond Vance, who's prepared to sign involuntary hold paperwork under Colorado's M1 statute. If you step into that cabin, you won't leave conscious. You'll be sedated, transported to a private facility in Utah, and held there under psychiatric evaluation until your birthday passes. Once the deadline expires and you're deemed incapacitated, Michael retains permanent control over the trust as your legal guardian. I sat there with the phone pressed against my ear, feeling the entire architecture of my reality shift and resettle into a new, terrible configuration. And then, with horrifying clarity, the last 4 years of my life suddenly made perfect sense. It wasn't a series of unfortunate coincidences. It was a systematic campaign of psychological demolition. I had spent 4 years convinced I was falling apart, that I was defective, broken. The prescription medications that kept going missing from my medicine cabinet, the ones I needed for my anxiety, forcing me to call my doctor in a panic for emergency refills. The work presentations where my laptop files would mysteriously corrupt hours before major client meetings. The dinner reservations I absolutely knew I'd made that restaurants had no record of, leaving me standing humiliated in lobbies. The bank transfers I'd initiated that somehow never went through, causing late payment fees and damage to my credit. Every single time I broke down. Every time I sat on my bathroom floor crying because I couldn't trust my own mind, Michael was there. He'd put his arm around my shoulders, his expression carefully arranged into tragic concern, and he'd say it. "Oh, Claire." His voice would be so gentle it felt like mercy. "You're having another episode." This is exactly how Dad was in his last year. The confusion, the paranoia. It runs in families, you know. I believed him. I swallowed every word like it was medicine instead of poison. I let him convince me that my mind was a house with a crumbling foundation and that he was the only one holding up the walls. But looking at the evidence Melissa was sending to my email right now, the contracts with the transport service, the payment schedule to Dr. Vance, the draft conservatorship petition, everything crystallized. I wasn't losing my mind. I was being hunted. It's a very specific kind of horror when you realize the person who held your hand at your father's funeral doesn't love you. He's been farming you, cultivating your dependence, harvesting your doubt. Michael had normalized the cruelty so effectively that I thanked him for it. He turned my entire life into one long gaslighting campaign, making me question my own reality so thoroughly that I'd never notice his hand in my bank account. But he made one critical miscalculation. He assumed that breaking my confidence meant he'd broken my intelligence. He was catastrophically wrong. "Claire." Melissa's voice pulled me back. "Are you there? You need to stay in Boston. Cancel the flight. File a restraining order." We'll handle this through the courts. No, I said. My voice didn't shake. It sounded cold, metallic, like a blade being sharpened. If I don't go, he'll just adapt. He'll show up at my apartment, ambush me at my office, manufacture a crisis in public where I look unstable. I need to end this in Aspen where he thinks he's in control. What are you planning? I'm going to Colorado, I said, standing up. But I'm not going as the helpless little sister he wrote into his script. I'm going to burn that script and write my own ending. I hung up. I didn't feel fear anymore. I felt something colder, sharper. This wasn't a breakdown. This was a reckoning. And Michael was about to learn that underestimating me was the most expensive mistake of his life. I didn't pack comfortable clothes for a family weekend. I packed evidence and weapons. My first stop was Mass General Hospital. I didn't make an appointment. I walked into the psychiatric emergency department and paid $3,000 in cash for a comprehensive evaluation. 2 hours later, I walked out with time-stamped documentation that would save my life. A full psychiatric assessment stating I was oriented, coherent, and showed zero signs of psychosis, mania, delusions, or suicidal ideation. A toxicology screen showing my system was completely clean. No drugs, no alcohol, nothing that could be twisted into proof of instability. I sat in my car in the hospital parking garage and made the call I'd been dreading. The phone rang 4 times. Claire? My nephew answered, his voice tight with stress. He was 19, trapped at that Aspen cabin with a father who valued money more than his own son's well-being. Aunt Claire, are you really coming? He's acting weird. There are people here I don't recognize. Men in black jackets. One of them has a medical bag. I know, Tyler, I said, keeping my voice steady to anchor him. Listen very carefully. Do you see the coffee carafe? The one your dad always sets out for me in the mornings because he knows I don't function without caffeine? Yeah. It's on the kitchen counter. Mom just filled it. Next to it, there should be a small amber prescription bottle. It'll have my name on it, but it's not actually my medication. It's what he's planning to put in my coffee to knock me out. I see it. He just put it there. Jesus Christ. He's really doing this. Switch it, I said. What? Dump it down the disposal. Rinse the bottle. Go to the garage. There's a tool cabinet. Bottom drawer. There's a bottle of liquid melatonin your dad uses when he can't sleep. It's clear. Dissolves in liquid. Completely harmless. Put that in the prescription bottle instead. Aunt Claire, I'm terrified. What if he catches me? He won't, I said. You're smarter than he thinks. You've always been smarter than he gives you credit for. If you do this, I promise you, I will get us both out of that house tomorrow. Can you be brave for 5 minutes? The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard him exhale, shaky but determined. Okay, I'm doing it now. Good man. Delete this call from your phone history. Do it right now while I'm on the line. I heard him tapping. Done. I'll see you tomorrow morning, Tyler. I hung up and started the car. The drive to Aspen is normally one of those scenic American journeys that travel magazines romanticize. Today, it felt like driving to my own execution, except I was the one bringing the guillotine. I flew into Denver and rented an SUV. The drive up into the Rockies took 4 hours. The landscape transformed from high plains to alpine forest, the peaks rising like jagged teeth against a sky so blue it looked artificial. Michael had chosen the Aspen property deliberately. It was isolated, prestigious, and had the kind of privacy that meant no neighbors to hear you scream. Just the wind through the pines and the absolute silence of wealth. He thought the isolation was his weapon. He thought he was luring his confused, fragile little sister into a cage where she'd have no witnesses, no escape, no leverage. He didn't know I had a satellite phone with a direct line to Melissa. He didn't know I had Melissa and a Colorado state investigator named Detective Sarah Chen trailing 2 hours behind me in an unmarked vehicle. He didn't know that Chen had been building a fraud case against Dr. Vance for 6 months and was thrilled to add attempted false imprisonment to the charges. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror as I turned onto the private road leading to the cabin. I didn't look like a woman on the verge of collapse. I looked like a CEO, walking into a hostile board meeting with a recording device and a team of lawyers. I wasn't driving to a family reunion. I was driving to a crime scene, and I was the prosecutor. The cabin sat against the mountainside like something out of an architectural magazine, all reclaimed wood and floor-to-ceiling windows, completely exposed to the wilderness, yet entirely sealed off from help. As I parked, I noticed the white van partially hidden behind the garage. Medical transport. My stomach turned, but my hands stayed steady. Michael opened the door before I reached the porch steps. He was dressed in expensive, casual, that very specific wealthy person's weekend uniform of cashmere and designer denim. His smile was warm, concerned, and absolutely calculated. "Claire Bear," he said, pulling me into a hug that felt like a security pat-down. "I was worried you'd cancel. You sounded so stressed on the phone last week." "I made it," I said, letting my voice waver slightly. I pulled back and wrapped my arms around myself, mimicking the self-soothing gesture I knew he'd interpret as anxiety. "The altitude is making me dizzy. I think I'm already getting a headache. See?" He shot a significant look at his wife Vanessa, who was hovering in the hallway with an expression of rehearsed sympathy. "I told you she shouldn't be traveling alone. She's not well." I walked inside. The cabin was cold, aggressively air-conditioned to a temperature that made my skin prickle. "Come, sit," Michael commanded, guiding me toward the massive dining table. "I want you to meet some people. This is Dr. Vance. He's a family friend, a psychiatrist. He happened to be in Aspen this weekend, so I invited him to join us. Total coincidence." Dr. Vance stood. He was broad-shouldered, late 50s, with the kind of fake warmth that professionals use when they're being paid to betray someone. He assessed me not with concern, but with clinical evaluation, checking boxes on an invisible form. "Claire," he said. His voice was smooth. "Michael has shared his concerns about you. I'm here as a friend, not as your doctor. Just to talk." "I bet he has," I murmured, staring at the floor, playing the role of the defeated, exhausted sister. "I'm so tired. I barely slept last night." "Perfect," Michael said, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "That's exactly why we're here, sis. To make sure you get the rest and help you need. Sit. Let me get you some coffee." He guided me to a chair facing the window. Outside, the aspen trees were turning gold, their leaves shimmering in the morning light. It looked like freedom. It was actually a cage. On the kitchen counter, the coffee carafe sat waiting. I watched Michael walk toward it, his movements practiced. He poured a generous mug, his back slightly turned, shielding the action. Even though Tyler had already neutralized the threat, I saw Michael's hand move toward something. Saw him pause, look confused for just a fraction of a second. But he was committed to the performance. He brought the mug to me and set it directly in front of my hands. "Drink," he said gently. "It's that dark roast you love. It'll help with the headache and the altitude." "You're shaking, Claire." I looked at my hands on the table. I made them tremble. I started, my voice breaking perfectly. "I've been feeling so lost, Michael. I can't keep track of anything anymore. I don't know what's real. I feel like I'm disappearing." It was the exact script he'd written for me. The lines he'd been feeding me for 4 years. A flash of triumph crossed his face, sharp and quick as a scalpel. He touched my cheek, his fingers cold. "I know, sweetheart. I know. That's exactly why we're all here. We're going to take care of you, get you the treatment you desperately need. But first, you need to calm down. Drink the coffee." Tyler was at the far end of the table, staring at his plate. His jaw was clenched. Vanessa looked away. Dr. Vance leaned forward, watching the mug, waiting for the drugs to take effect. I lifted the coffee and let the steam warm my face. To them, it was the end of my independence. To me, it was theater. "To family?" I whispered. "To family," Michael echoed, smiling for the first time that morning. I drank. The trap was sprung. They just didn't realize I wasn't the prey. 5 minutes passed. This was when I was supposed to slump, lose consciousness. Michael checked his watch. Frowned. "Oh God," Vanessa suddenly cried, right on cue. "Michael, she's crashing. Look at her eyes. Dr. Vance, do something." The door from the garage burst open. 2 men in dark medical uniforms rushed in, carrying restraints and a medical bag. "I need you to stay calm, Claire," Vance said, standing and reaching for a syringe from his bag. "We're going to help you. This is for your own safety." Michael grabbed my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Claire. This is killing me. But it's for your own good. You'll thank me when you're better." I stood up. The coffee mug clattered against the table. Michael stumbled back. "Get your hands off me," I said. My voice was level, clear, absolutely sober. The room froze. The men in uniforms hesitated. Vance stopped mid-motion. "She's manic," Michael shouted. "She's dangerous. This is exactly what Dad's doctors warned us about. The only dangerous person in this room is you," I replied. I placed a small black satellite phone on the table. The screen showed an active call. We're live on a recorded line with my attorney and a Colorado state investigator. Every word you've said is documented. Vance went pale. The syringe slipped from his hand. You're bluffing, Michael hissed. Try me, I said. I dropped a manila folder beside the coffee mug. Psychiatric evaluation from Mass General. Completed yesterday. Toxicology screen. Both completely clean. I looked at Vance. If you touch me, you'll lose your medical license and face criminal charges. He backed away. She told me this was legal, that you'd already been declared incompetent. She lied, I said. I turned to Michael. He was shaking, the mask cracking. I didn't drink your coffee, I said quietly. Tyler switched it. Michael froze. Every muscle in his body locked. Tyler dumped your little cocktail down the disposal 12 hours ago. Sirens cut through the mountain silence. I smiled. Breakfast is over. The front door exploded inward. Colorado State Police flooded the cabin. The transport team dropped to their knees immediately. Vance tried to run toward the back deck. He didn't make it 6 feet. Detective Chen walked through the chaos, badge displayed, her expression carved from granite. Michael Lawrence, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted false imprisonment, and elder abuse of a trust. Michael's face drained of all color. Vanessa started crying. I have power of attorney, Michael sputtered. I was protecting her. And that's exactly why you lose everything, Melissa said, walking in behind Chen. She must have been in the second vehicle. By abusing your power of attorney, you triggered the disinheritance clause in your father's trust. Every asset you thought you were protecting reverts to Claire. He stared at me. You set this up. You manipulated me. No, I said, my voice quiet but clear. I gave you enough rope. You chose to hang yourself with it. They dragged him toward the door. He was screaming, incoherent, demanding his lawyer, blaming our father, blaming me. Tyler stood up, walked over, handed Detective Chen a small amber prescription bottle. This is what he tried to drug her coffee with, Tyler said. His voice was shaking but certain. I switched it with melatonin last night. Claire told me what he was planning. Chen took the bottle with gloved hands. Flunitrazepam? She read from the label. Rohypnol. You were going to roofie your own sister. Michael collapsed against the officers holding him. His face was a mask of shock and rage. Tyler, you idiot. You destroyed everything. No, Tyler said, and his voice didn't shake anymore. You did. 8 months later, the Aspen cabin was sold. The trust was secured entirely in my name. Tyler moved to Boston and enrolled at MIT. He's studying computer science. He's healing. So am I. Michael is serving 6 years in federal prison. Dr. Vance lost his license and is facing his own criminal trial. Vanessa filed for divorce and cooperated with prosecutors. She's trying to rebuild a relationship with Tyler. It's slow, but it's honest. Cutting off toxic family isn't betrayal. It's surgery. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is remove the rot before it kills you. And for the first time in 4 years, I can trust my own mind, my own memory, my own reality. That's not something Michael can ever steal from me again.